Revealed, how I proved my parents wrong after 10 years of SNEERS, and transformed my life forever. Jake Thompson stood in the center of Maplewood, where faded storefronts whispered of better days. With every brush stroke on his canvas, hope surged inside him. He longed for acceptance, for the warm embrace of a world that could see art as more than just a hobby. But that dream often felt like chasing ghosts in a town that crushed ambition under the weight of strict expectations. His parents, proud factory workers, would shake their heads, torn between love for their son and the bitterness of their own lost dreams. To them, success was defined by tangible jobs, factory lines, and steady paychecks, not messy paint and uncertain futures. But the heart of Maplewood had begun to bleed. The factory had closed its doors, leaving the community adrift in a sea of uncertainty. One chilly evening, old wooden folding chairs circled in a desperate town meeting. Fear cut through the air like a knife as voices broke into heated conversations about how to revive their hometown. Jake's heart raced. This was a pivotal moment. A flicker of hope ignited within him. What if he could drive creativity back into the heart of Maplewood with an art show? It could be a celebration, a chance for the townsfolk to remember who they were, to reclaim their spirit in the face of despair. Gripped by determination, Jake rushed home, excitement crashing into the walls of self-doubt. His mother's frown and his father's cold demeanor stung as he voiced his revolutionary idea. An art show, Mom. It will bring everyone together. The scoff that escaped their lips felt like a dagger. They didn't understand. To them, art was a fool's dream. It was the very definition of failure. But amidst the cutting words, Jake sensed a rising fire. This was his chance to push back against a lifetime of skepticism. That he took a deep breath and set off through town, engaging fellow artists and creatives, each person weaving a story of resilience as they discussed their passion for art. Yet, not everyone was supportive. Distant stares and sharp comments made him question if he was crazy, but each connection brought clarity. No burden could dim his desire. Slowly, hands joined together, the threads of creativity began to intertwine into something beautiful. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. The big day arrived, full of anticipation. Jake stood nervously in front of a fluttering crowd, clutching his speech like a lifeline. Just then, a local developer took the stage, announcing plans to buy the land for a new factory, casting a shadow over Jake's vision. Doubts swirled like churning storm clouds. Amidst the crowd, eyes narrowed, and whispers filled the air like heavy fog. Jake's heart thundered. This is about more than just art, he shouted, his voice barely cracking the tense silence. He fought against the tide of despair, pleading for a moment of reflection on what truly defined success. His gaze locked with his parents. For the first time, a flicker of something other than disdain swam in their eyes. The hope bubbled inside him, begging for release as he called for unity, urging the audience to see art not as an escape, but as a lifeline. With the weight of the moment pressing down, the tension crackled like electricity. Jake stood vulnerable, waiting for the crowd's response. Would their minds change? Would his parents finally embrace his hand-painted dreams? The air was thick with uncertainty, leaving his heart teetering on the edge of hope and fear. In that suspended silence, everything was uncertain, and the answer lingered just out of reach. The crowd's breath held, and then, as if synchronistically released, a murmur rippled through. Faces turned to one another, expressions flickering from skepticism to curiosity, and even to an inkling of newfound hope. Jake's heart swelled. This was his moment, the chance to shake loose the heavy chains of doubt that had bound Maplewood for so long. Remember who we are, he implored, stepping slightly forward, heart racing with every word. We are a community of dreamers, of creators. Our spirits should not be shackled by factory gates or corporate decisions. In that charged atmosphere, Jake's voice grew, fueled by every nod and silent acknowledgement around him. He could feel deep-rooted emotions bubbling back to life, shining through the haze of despair that blanketed the town, and then, something shifted. An elderly woman, leaning on a cane, was the first to rise. "When my husband lost his job at the factory," she started, her voice strong despite her tremor, "I thought my life was over. But I found painting again. It filled my heart with joy." More faces began to light up. Jake's eyes widened as hands shot into the air. Each person who spoke brought their own story, a past enriched by art, creativity, and a passion now buried under years of practical worries. With each shared memory, the audience began to merge, transforming from a collection of faces into a tapestry of shared dreams, a community rediscovering its identity. But just as the tide started to rise, Jake's parents turned their backs, retreating into the crowd's shadows. A wave of hopelessness crashed over him. Could he really change their minds? Was this moment slipping away? His breath quickened, panic mingling with determination. Suddenly, he recalled their faces as children, animated and bright-eyed, dreaming freely. They had inspired his passion in the first place. Taking a deep breath, Jake pressed forward. "To my parents, I want to show you what this town can become. Let us not just build a factory. Let's build an art center. A place filled with painting, music, and laughter. Let us give our community a future that sparkles with creativity." Amidst gasps and murmurs from the audience, something cracked in the atmosphere. A wave of applause suddenly erupted, loud and fervent. It swept through the crowd, washing over Jake like warm sunlight at dawn. He had done it, he had ignited a spark. The town buzzed now, exchanging ideas, visions, and excitement over art and revival, but the most crucial moment had just begun. As the applause faded into hopeful chatter, Jake scanned the crowd, looking for his parents. He spotted them still standing in shadow, clearly moved but battling against something unseen. They traded glances between him and the gathering crowd, their eyes a canvas of confusion and disbelief. "Mom! Dad!" Jake called, his voice breaking through the chatter. It was now or never. "I need you here, with me." The building tension was palpable, as if the very air was waiting for their response. His heart raced, pounding as the faces that surrounded him melted into an anxious blur. Jake stood, exposed and vulnerable under the spotlight, the weight of the moment palpable. "Will you come and join me?" Would they finally step into his world, or were they destined to remain in the shadows, forever holding on to the safety of fear? Jake's heart clenched with emotion as he held his breath, desperation lacing his words. The answer loomed, just out of reach, and everything in him yearned to understand what would happen next. A heavy silence settled over the crowd, a collective breath held as eyes locked onto Jake's parents. Time stretched, and Jake felt an eternity slipping by in those agonizing moments. His father wrinkled his brow, conflicted, while his mother's lips formed a thin line, visibly battling her fears. Then, like a sudden gust of wind through a still autumn afternoon, his mother stepped forward. "Jake," she hesitated, clutching her cane tightly, the tremor in her hands contradicted by the weight of her gaze, fierce yet tender. "You know we want what's best for you. We just see the world differently." The crowd leaned in, the electricity of hope tingling in the air. It felt as if they were all hanging off her words, waiting for her to bridge the chasm between their doubts and his dreams. "But Mom, what if this is best for all of us? What if we create something beautiful together?" Jake's voice trembled with a mix of desperation and conviction. This wasn't just about him, it was about Maplewood, their home. His father shifted uncomfortably, eyeing the sea of hopeful faces. "We've always lived by the rules, Jake," he finally spoke, his voice low. "The factory offers stability. Security. You can't just throw that away because of a dream." For a fleeting moment, a cold rush of despair washed over Jake. Each word carried years of ingrained belief, the safety net they had built, one knot at a time. But he refused to be defeated. The warmth of the crowd's energy gave him strength, igniting a fire within him that refused to be dimmed. Sometimes the biggest risk is not following your heart, he implored, feeling the emotion bubble up from his core. Each one of us has a gift. We can transform this place into a beacon of creativity, where our children will flourish. Imagine the art center filled with life, music echoing through these streets. Think of the legacy we leave behind. Another murmur surged through the audience. Enthusiasm was catching like wildfire as if Jake's passion was igniting something deep within them all. Faces began nodding, the spirit of old Maplewood was awakening from its long slumber. His mother's eyes glistened. But what will the world say? Who cares? Jake shot back, excitement bubbling up. This is about us. About community and culture. Let us stop worrying about what others think and start focusing on what we can build together. The crowd erupted in applause once more, a tidal wave of sound that echoed through the square. Jake's heart soared. But amidst the joy, anxiety rooted him in place. What if this wasn't enough? What if he lost them in the end? As the applause faded, Jake dared to look back at his parents, who still stood on the periphery. They were processing something. Hope, fear, and love collided behind their eyes. Would they swallow their doubts? Would they join him in stepping into the light instead of lingering in shadows? And just as he was about to plead one last time, the answer flickered in their expressions, leaving Jake breathless. Could the tides truly be turning, or was he still grasping at a dream? The crowd's call for a vision echoed back, growing. Will you lead us, Jake? Someone shouted from the back. The question hung in the air, vibrating with promise. Jake stood there, pulse racing, waiting for his parents to step forward before the crescendo of his vision. Would they take that leap with him, or would fear keep them anchored in silence? The crowd's energy surged, a wave of encouragement washing over Jake, yet his heart hammered with uncertainty. He could see his parents standing there, lost in their private struggle. Would they hold on to their fears, or step into something altogether new? His mother looked at his father, a silent conversation passing between them. They were both tethered to their beliefs, steeped in the familiar rhythms of factory life and tradition. But then, just as the moment threatened to slip away, she raised her chin, her resolve shifting in an instant. Jake, she started, and the crowd hushed. You never told me about your vision clearly enough. All I've heard are your dreams threaded into passion, but you've captured none of the logistics. He opened his mouth to respond, but she continued, what do we do? What happens next? The truth is, we've never seen that kind of change before. Jake's thoughts raced. We form a committee. Gather everyone who wants to help. We can begin by organizing workshops, engaging artists, and hosting events to draw in our community. We just need a space and together, we can create it. The crowd erupted again, eyes glistening with newfound hope. There were murmurs of agreement. A spark was igniting, turning potential into action. His father's expression softened slightly, caught in the tides of possibility, and he finally stepped forward. It's true, he said, voice steadier now. We were always told that the factory was our only way. But we didn't allow ourselves to dream beyond it. You've opened our eyes, Jake. Gasps rippled through the crowd, excitement mixing with disbelief. Jake couldn't believe what he was hearing. His heart raced against his ribcage, pulse rushing like a train onto the tracks of hope. Then, unexpectedly, his father placed his hand on Jake's shoulder. You really believe we can do this? That Maplewood can be reborn? Absolutely. Jake beamed, warmth flooding through him. It felt surreal, as if he were floating above the ground. The arms of his parents reached toward him, no judgment, only a connection solidified by a shared vision. All right then, his father nodded, a smile breaking through the previous tension so evident on his face. Let us do this together, son. Let us build a place that reflects who we all are. It might take time, but we can't let fear lead us anymore. Tears brimmed in his mother's eyes as she stepped forward, her cane steadying her. "I was afraid of what could be lost, but now I see what we could gain. If it's truly a community effort, I'm in." The crowd erupted in cheers, a heartbeat of celebration resonating through Maplewood. Families embraced, neighbors laughed, and for a moment, they were one a tapestry of dreams woven tightly together. But as the night grew darker and the stars began to twinkle, Jake felt a flicker of doubt creep back in. Could they really accomplish this? Would the world outside accept their dream? "Let us meet tomorrow," Jake shouted above the din. "Let us start planning right away." The crowd buzzed with positivity, some began to scatter, whispering about what roles they could play. But as the excitement of the moment swelled, an unseen fear gripped him tightly. This was just the beginning. What huge obstacles awaited them? Jake glanced back at his parents, who stood close, illuminated by the community's vibrant energy. They were ready to face this journey together, but what would it demand from them? And was he strong enough to lead them through the challenges to come? He inhaled deeply, feeling the weight of responsibility settle on his shoulders. Tomorrow held promise, but it also held peril. The real work was yet to reveal itself, and Jake couldn't shake the sense that their greatest test was coming. What would it demand to bring their shared vision to life? Would their bond withstand the trials ahead? Morning arrived with a crisp fog settled over Maplewood, shrouding the town in a blanket of uncertainty and anticipation. Jake stood near the window, hands wrapped around a steaming cup of coffee, the warmth grounding him as he watched the world wake. The sun struggled to break through the cloud cover. He felt a bit like the town caught in a dawn that promised brightness yet still lingered in the shadows. His parents bustled about the kitchen, retrieving bits and pieces for breakfast, their chatter laced with a nervous energy. Jake's heart swelled with pride and fear as he took in the sight of them. For years, he had longed to see them embrace change. Now, here they were, prepared to take bold steps into the unknown. "Did you think about what you want to present at the meeting?" his mother asked, glancing over her shoulder, her brow slightly furrowed. "Yeah, I've got some ideas," Jake replied, setting down his cup. "We need to showcase what we want: a vibrant community center where art, music, and workshops can flourish." His father nodded slowly, the lines of his face revealing pride mingled with concern. "And how will we fund this?" There it was, the heart of the matter. The financial gripes that had bound them for so long, like chains around their ankles. Jake took a deep breath. "We can explore grants for community development and host fundraisers, but more importantly, we need to get people involved." His mother straightened her back. "But what if they don't come? What if they don't care?" Jake paused, allowing her words to hang in the air. It was a valid fear. The community had its routines, and change could feel like an upheaval. But he was determined. "We can't control how they feel, Mom. But we can show them what's possible. People want to believe in something again." When breakfast was finished and the dishes cleared, they gathered in a small living room, the forgotten memorabilia of their family life surrounding them: old albums, medals, and memories, all urging them to dream bigger. As they spoke about the meeting, Jake's thoughts raced. He jotted down ideas, sketching plans for community workshops that would intrigue artists, musicians, and even those with hidden talents yearning for expression. He envisioned paint splattering walls, music echoing in the streets, laughter intermingling with serious discussions. But doubt crept back in as he stared at his notes. What if nobody shows up? What if I fail? His mother must have sensed the shift in his spirit, because she reached out and squeezed his hand. "Remember, we start small. Change doesn't occur overnight, and you're not doing this alone." Her words sank in like a soft rain, soothing and refreshing. They weren't alone. He looked at his father, who nodded, solidarity shining through their shared fears. The clock ticked relentlessly toward the meeting time, and they soon found themselves navigating unfamiliar ground. As they stepped out of their house, Jake felt the weight of the air shift. Every corner of Maplewood stood ready for this turning point. They emerged into the bustling life outside, the whir of small-town activities swirling around them. Jake noticed faces peering curiously from behind windows and porches. Some recognized him, others stared blankly, unsure of what to expect. His heart raced. More than anything, he wanted to instill hope, a vision that seeped into the souls of those who had given up on dreams. As they approached the community hall, a flicker of excitement broke through Jake's clouds of doubt. Signs of chaos greeted them, chairs being arranged, tables set, and people murmuring anxiously. This was it. Their dream lay before them, fragile yet potent. Before they walked through the doors, Jake turned to his parents. "Are you ready?" "We're right here with you," his father answered, determination coursing through his voice. Jake took another deep breath, ready to face whatever awaited them inside. And then, just before he stepped into the hall, he saw a familiar face emerge from the crowd, eyes narrowed with skepticism, a face from his past that could either build the dream or tear it down. Would this encounter be a stroke of luck or a heavy blow? Jake's breath hitched as he recognized the face. Mark, an old schoolmate known for his sharp tongue and sharper skepticism. Memories of their high school rivalry flooded back, the laughter, the mocking, the moments that stung. Mark's eyes narrowed further, as if sizing up Jake's intentions the way a hawk would regard its prey. "Great to see you, Jake," Mark called out, voice dripping with sarcasm. "What are you doing, planning another one of your visions for Maplewood?" "Yeah, actually," Jake replied, masking his unease with a steady tone. "We're trying to start a community center." Mark laughed, a sound so loud it turned heads. "A community center? Really? Do you think Maplewood's Got Talent will actually draw anyone? Remember the last time you tried something big?" The jab was familiar, and Jake felt the sting. He could almost hear the echoes of his past doubts bouncing around in his mind. The crowd behind Mark murmured, faces shifting between interest and skepticism. A lump formed in his throat. What if Mark was right? But before he could reply, his mother stepped forward, eyes fierce. "This is important to Jake. We're not just dreaming, we're building. And we need your support, and the support of the entire community." Her words rang like a bell, cutting through the haze of doubt. For a moment, Mark seemed taken aback. "Support?" he echoed, scrunching his face. "You think the town cares? They're set in their ways, and everyone knows Maplewood is dying." A tense silence settled over the crowd. Jake felt the weight of their gazes, a mixture of pity and curiosity. He could feel heat rising to his cheeks, but he took a step towards Mark, his voice firm, almost shouting to reach everyone's ears. "But what if we change that? What if we show them that Maplewood can live again? We can make it a place where dreams aren't just fantasies, they can be reality." A ripple of surprise ran through the crowd, and Jake glanced at his parents. They stood steadfast, pride etched on their features. He drew strength from their presence, his courage feeding off their faith. "People want hope," he continued, still holding Mark's gaze. "What we're doing isn't just for us, it's for everyone. I believe all it takes is one spark to light the fire of change." Mark's expression shifted, uncertainty creeping into the confidence he usually exuded, but Jake had more to say. "So, are you going to keep focusing on what can't be done, or join us and see what we can build together? This isn't just Jake's dream. It's our community's chance to thrive." The crowd murmured again, some nods appearing among the skeptical faces. "Think about it," Jake pressed. "The walls of our town are lined with the echoes of missed opportunities and buried dreams. Let us turn those echoes into music, laughter, and art. Let South fill this place with life again." Mark's brow furrowed, and for a moment, Jake thought he might even see a flicker of realization. But it was fleeting as Mark scoffed again, "You'll need more than optimism to pull this off." "What about the funding?" Before Jake could respond, the hall door swung open wide, revealing more people stepping in, a mix of neighbors, friends, and a few lost souls looking for something new. The energy shifted with each new face arriving, some smiling, others whispers on their lips, uncertain but intrigued. Jake's heart raced. The room was filling, and hope began to blossom like flowers in a spring thaw. Would they be inspired? Could this meeting truly be the catalyst for change? What happens next? He wondered, excitement woven with anxiety. The meeting was more than just a presentation, it was a beginning, a collective leap into the future. As he stood there, his thoughts racing, he felt a flicker of something in the pit of his stomach, a mixture of anticipation and urgency. Could they really ignite a passion that would change Maplewood forever? And then, just as the murmurs began to rise, another familiar face appeared at the entrance. Someone he hadn't expected to see. Would this encounter shift the balance? Or lead them astray? Jake's heart thundered as he recognized the newcomer, a face from his past that sparked a whirlwind of emotions. It was Emily, a childhood friend who had left Maplewood years ago for bigger dreams in the city. She had always been the bright light in his life, her laughter infectious, but her absence had stirred a kind of loneliness he often masked with determination. Seeing her now reminded him of the dreams they shared, hopes that they could someday return to a thriving Maplewood, hand in hand, rebuilding what life had torn apart. Jake. Emily's voice rang out, tinged with surprise and softness. Suddenly, all eyes shifted to her, absorbing the energy she brought with her. "Wow, what are you doing here?" he managed, fighting to keep his composure. "I thought you were in New York." Was. She stepped closer, a smile breaking through. "I caught wind of the meeting and wanted to see what you were up to. Heard there was some talk of, well, hope around here." Hope. The word hung in the air, buoyant and alive. Mark looked from Jake to Emily, bewildered by this unexpected shift. "Oh great, another dreamer. Just what this place needs." His sarcasm fell flat, like a lead balloon struggling against the weight of the moment. "Mark, what's the harm in trying?" Emily challenged, her voice steady but warm. "Jake is right. This town needs a spark. Maybe we're still in the ashes of past failures, but that doesn't mean we can't fan the flames." Her words stirred the crowd. Jake saw fleeting smiles and nods of agreement. Even his parents' faces glowed with renewed hope. Was it possible? Could they be the spark Maplewood needed? "Here's the thing," Emily continued, her gaze piercing through the tension, "we can't do it alone. We'll need everyone's help, every ounce of your skepticism turned into support. Let's brainstorm together. Ideas, resources, anything. If we don't try, we'll never know what could happen." Mark opened his mouth, perhaps to refute, but suddenly it was like the air had changed. The crowd buzzed with potential, a movement bubbling to the surface. "Okay, let's say we get behind this. We don't have much time before winter sets in. What's the plan?" Someone from the back called out, bravely stepping into the light. "First things first," Jake cleared his throat, feeling the momentum surge, "we need to gather ideas. What do people want? We could use the old library as a hub, host events and workshops. But it must resonate deeply. Who needs support? Who's feeling unheard?" A hand shot up in the crowd. "I want to help with art classes." Another voice chimed in. Suddenly, ideas began flying, voices overlapping in a rush of brainstorming, the seeds of a community blossoming right before his eyes. Jake couldn't help but beam, soaking in the energy that was growing between them, the room illuminated as candle flames flickered to life. "Wait," Mark interjected, trying to regain the reins of the conversation. "You still will need funding. Just enthusiasm will not pay the bills." Mark. "Enough!" Jake exclaimed. "This is about so much more than just money. This is about rebuilding trust, connecting with each other again. It's about showing the world that Maplewood isn't dead. We're alive. We're still here. We just need to believe." And there it was. In the midst of bustling excitement and emotion, he saw his vision taking shape. Maplewood had lain dormant for too long. Each face in the room reflected a story of potential waiting to unfold. As the discussion continued to swell, a realization struck Jake. He wasn't just fighting for a community center anymore, he was fighting for the rebirth of the town itself, a revival of spirit. But even amidst this newfound excitement, Jake's heart raced with questions. Would they all stay committed? Would the ghosts of the past hold them back? And then, just as someone proposed organizing a community event for next weekend, the door swung open again, this time revealing an unmistakable figure from the past, one Jake never expected to see again. Could this new arrival be the answer or just another complication? The room went still, breaths caught in throats as Jake's eyes adjusted to the light pouring in from the door. A familiar silhouette stepped in, and for a breathless moment, time felt suspended. It was Sarah, another once close friend, the girl who had moved away at the same time as Emily. But she hadn't just moved. After high school, she vanished from Jake's life amid the swirling chaos of teenage rumors and misunderstandings, leaving behind whispers of betrayal. There she stood now, looking older, but still radiating that same determination he remembered. "Jake," she said softly, her eyes scanning the room before settling on him. His heart raced, an unexpected blend of joy and trepidation. He still felt the remnants of hurt from their past. "Sarah, what are you doing here?" "I came to help," she replied, her voice steady despite the butterflies unleashed in the room. "I heard about the meeting and thought it was time to come back. Maplewood needs all hands on deck, don't you think?" Mark's distrust radiated like a thundercloud. "And you think you can just waltz back in here like nothing happened? You think any of us have forgotten?" "Mark," Emily interjected, stepping between them. "Everyone deserves a chance to make amends. If we can't accept that, then what are we really trying to build?" Jake felt a wave of appreciation for Emily's defense, while his mind raced. Would Sarah's presence dissolve the hopeful energy that had just ignited, or could it somehow strengthen it? Memories flooded back, shared laughter over bonfires, but also whispered accusations that chased her away. Maybe we should hear her out," Jake said, surprising himself. "What do you have in mind, Sarah?" "I know what this town can do," she said, her voice now a bit stronger. "I spent time volunteering in community projects in other cities. I learned how to connect people. We need to talk to our local businesses. Revitalizing downtown can be our first step. It's all about collaboration." Jake couldn't help but notice the contemplative silence enveloping the room. The skepticism seemed to slowly flicker, replaced by curiosity. People leaned in, eager to hear if her vision would resonate. "What can you bring to the table?" Mark asked, his arms crossed defensively. "I can help craft a plan," Sarah replied, now with more fire in her eyes. "We can create a network of mutual support, each business, each family, turning their expertise into resources for others. Shared workshops, community funding efforts, maybe even some artsy projects with individuals who need encouragement. Let us turn Maplewood into something we can all be proud of." Jake could see it in the crowd, eyes widening, heads nodding. Hope danced around the room, palpable in the air. He turned to Emily, and she grinned back with an expression that told him she was on the same page. This was their moment, but then, another voice broke through the buzz. "And what about the past? What if old grudges tear us apart again?" It was an older woman sitting at the back, her voice low but firm. Jake swallowed hard, suddenly aware of the heaviness that accompanied transformation. He had fought for community and change, yet he knew healing from past wounds was just as crucial. Could they rise above betrayal and animosity? "Those wounds may never fully disappear," Jake said, feeling the weight of his words. "But we can't let them dictate our future. This is a chance to write a new story, together. One that celebrates growth, acceptance, everything we deserve." He scanned the room, a mixture of hope and anxiety hanging in the atmosphere. The room had shifted again, now charged with a question lingering in everyone's hearts. Could they truly unite? Just then, Sarah cleared her throat, her eyes brightening with possibility. "Let us plan something. An open forum to talk about the past, address concerns, and share ideas for the future. Will you join us? Jake felt the momentum swirling, but uncertainty still gnawed at him. Would Maplewood's spirit emerge strong or falter under the weight of its history? Before he could respond, the door swung open once more. This time, it wasn't just another familiar face, it was someone whose presence sent an electric shock through him. His older brother, Ethan, a figure he had long looked up to but who had left under a cloud of disappointment. Could they really face the ghosts of the past together, or would this moment fracture their efforts entirely? The room erupted into a murmur, the tension palpable as Jake's heart raced. Ethan stood just inside the door, a shadow from a past Jake had tried hard to push away. The familiar expression of disappointment lingered on his brother's face, and it sent a sharp pang through Jake's chest. Ethan, he breathed, unsure whether to reach out or step back. Memories of their last encounter swirled in his mind like a storm, angry words darting between them, an unresolved rift that had lingered. What are you doing here? Jake finally managed, trying to mask the tremor in his voice. I heard you were meeting, Ethan replied, his voice steady though Jake could sense the weight beneath it. And I thought maybe I should be here. Thought you were done with Maplewood, Mark interjected, narrowing his eyes at Ethan, as if expecting him to sow discord rather than unity. I don't have time for this, Ethan shook his head, frustration edging his voice. I came to support my brother. If you want to change this town, we can't keep dividing ourselves. I want to help. Jake felt a whirlwind of emotion. His brother's return stirred something deep within, an urge to reconcile, yet a fear of history repeating itself. He turned to Sarah, who seemed just as unsure as he was, though her expression was laced with determination. Maybe having Ethan here could make a difference, she suggested cautiously. He has experience too. Let us use every resource we have. The group murmured again, some skeptical but others nodding. There was a sliver of hope. Perhaps this was the moment they could all finally confront their shared past. What do you think, Jake? Emily asked gently, sensing the conflict brewing in him. Can you work with him? Jake's mind raced. A part of him felt the weight of old grudges pulling him back, while another yearned to welcome his brother as they forged a new path. I think we can try, he said slowly. But we all need to be honest about our history. No more hiding or pretending it didn't happen. Ethan took a step forward, his face tightening as he absorbed the tension. You're right. I've been part of the problem too. When I left, I thought you'd be better off without me, Jake. I was wrong to abandon you. As he spoke, Jake felt a flicker inside, an inkling of understanding, the first step toward healing. But uncertainty still loomed large. Could they really bridge the years of hurt? What if the fragile trust they built crumbled once more? An older gentleman at one end of the room cleared his throat, gaining everyone's attention. It's going to take more than just words, he said, deeply invested. We need action that matches our intentions. If we're going to move on, let us start small. How can we work together today? Jake took a deep breath, sensing the energy shift again. This was it. This was the moment to turn intentions into reality. Why don't we organize a community cleanup? He suggested. We can unite for something tangible while also inviting open conversations for everyone. Sarah smiled, her eyes reflecting enthusiasm. Yes. We could divide into teams, have people pitch ideas for the next steps while facing the issues that need addressing. Jake noticed cautious nods, hesitant but hopeful. As the room began to buzz with renewed energy, excitement sparked in him. He glanced at Ethan, who looked equally amazed at the transformation happening. Maybe this really could be a turning point, but doubt crept back in. What if they fell apart once more? What if the past became a scapegoat for failure instead of a stepping stone? As they began to plan, a soft voice caught Jake's attention again. And what about forgiveness? It was the woman from earlier, her tone calm yet piercing. Jake looked up at her, unsure how to respond. The conversation shifted, and he felt a heaviness settle around his heart. Could he find it in himself to forgive? Could they build a truly united community without addressing the torn fabric of their history? And then, just when everything seemed to tilt toward possibility, he heard a rush of footsteps outside, the door flinging open once more. Who could possibly enter now, and would they bring more questions or hope? The room halted again, all eyes turning toward the entrance. Jake felt his heart race as a group of locals bustled in, each face carrying a mixture of determination and apprehension. Among them was Mrs. Harlow, the town's beloved retired schoolteacher, who had always championed creativity in his youth. Her presence ignited something within Jake, a reminder of the support hidden in unexpected places. "Jake!" she called, her voice warm yet firm. "I just heard about your meeting. I came to help, just like so many others." Behind her, a handful of residents nodded, murmurs of agreement filling the space. Jake was taken aback. "You really want to help?" he asked, feeling the weight of doubt shift. "Every bit counts," Mrs. Harlow replied, her eyes twinkling with resolve. "Maplewood has a heart, and we need to show it again. Count me in." As the energy in the room shifted once more, Jake couldn't believe what was unfolding. Ideas for the community center began to buzz like electricity, the promise of art classes, music workshops, local fairs, cleanup efforts, and spaces filled with laughter and joy. Sensing the tide of unity, Jake stepped forward. "What if we host a community festival?" he suggested. "It could blend art, music, food, celebrating what makes Maplewood unique. A chance for all of us to come together." Excited voices erupted, everyone tossing in suggestions. "We could have a talent show," shouted a voice from the back. "Yeah. Let us feature local artists," someone else chimed in. Jake felt a surge of adrenaline as the room exploded with enthusiasm. Everyone was ready to engage, to invest in their community's revival. Next to him, Emily's smile shone brightly, and even Ethan nodded along, feeling the currents of hope wash over them. As they brainstormed, Jake caught sight of his parents again. This time, instead of standing in the shadows, they had moved closer to the heart of the conversation, eyes glistening with emotion. In that moment, the walls that had long separated them from his dreams crumbled, and Jake felt a tether of connection to them. "Mom! Dad!" he called out, nudging the conversation in their direction. "We need your support, your experience. Can you guys lead the charge for our festival?" They exchanged a glance, understanding and apprehension danced within them. But as his mother stepped forward, her posture straightened with confidence. "Okay, we'll do it together," she said, a slight tremor in her voice transforming into certainty. "But we're going to need everyone's help, including yours, Jake." He was aflame with joy. His heart swelled as their connection strengthened, unaware that all the hesitations and past hurts were beginning to weave into a new collective tapestry of hope. Yet, a familiar voice interjected, breaking his moment of serenity. Mark stood, arms crossed defiantly. "Trust me, you can't think this festival will magically turn everything around. We'll probably just fail again." Jake felt the air grow tense, but instead of retreating, he took a step forward. "Mark," he addressed him calmly, "I get it. You're scared to hope. But what have we got to lose? Instead of assuming failure, let us choose faith. We've suffered long enough. Isn't it time we rise together?" The room held its breath. A silence thrummed with tension as Mark's gaze softened just a crack. "All right," he muttered, a flicker of sincerity breaking through his armor. "I'll help. But only if it makes sense." "Having you on board is a start," Jake said, the words flowing through him. Despite the unease lingering, the community had begun to weave something truly profound. The planning continued for hours, ideas flowing, spirits lifting. The hum of laughter and conversation surrounded Jake as he looked around, heart pounding with exhilaration. The energy was contagious, like a flame igniting a path toward the future, but just as dreams soared, Jake felt a familiar shadow whisper doubt. "What if it crumbles again?" he thought. But then he glanced at his parents. The pride in their eyes was undeniable, and suddenly he understood this time would be different. They had stepped into the light together. Emotions swelled as fraught histories began weaving together a strong fabric, stitched with kindness, creativity, and renewed resilience. They were no longer individuals separated by old grudges but a unified team seeking a common heartbeat for the town they loved. As the meeting came to a close, Jake stood in front of the crowd, which had transformed into a thrilling collective full of stories waiting to unfold. Thank you, everyone, for believing in this dream. Let us take the leap together. Maplewood will rise once more. The echo of cheers filled the room, thunderous applause enveloping them all as hope surged through the crowd. Tears of joy glimmered in eyes across the room, the light of community awakening as they embraced a future hand in hand. And as Jake smiled, truly smiled, he knew this was just the beginning. The journey would be fraught with challenges, uncertainty would still linger, but they were resilient. They had finally found their voice together, ready to face the tides of change with shimmering positivity. This was Maplewood reborn, and they were about to paint the bright canvas of a new reality. Jake inhaled deeply one last time, filled with gratitude and anticipation. And just like that, it was time to move forward. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. You need to show your support. Comment your reactions and feelings about the ending. Truly, we want to hear from you. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Don't wait not even one more second to share. Only true fans understand how important it is to support the channel.